At SheFit, we know the fitness industry makes a lot of empty promises. We're done with shortcuts and quick fixes. No woman should be let down or held back, especially by her clothing. It's time to experience the only sports bra that's as strong as you are. Available in the widest range of sizes, easy on and off, with 50% less bounce than the Nike Pro. It's time to feel real support from SheFit. Save $10 today at shefit.com/2022.
It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like Grandma's meatballs, or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Hello and welcome to Sports Ethos DFS Today podcast. I am your host, Mike Apatra, joined by none other than the wonderful man himself, the legend, Al Hunter here. Glad to have you on, Al. I'm excited, man. We don't really know each other too well, but we've done a couple contests. I'm sure we've been in plenty of DraftKings contests with each other over the years. But then, I mentioned it before. We had that with a few other guests. We had that contest last season with a bunch of other, DFS experts, pros, contributors all over. And it feels weird calling ourselves experts, man, because we probably get toasted more often than we don't. But how you doing, my friend? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, man. Happy to be on. I'm excited to break down tomorrow's slate, and hopefully we find some good picks for the listeners. Win some cash.
Well, that's it, man. Let's win some people some money. It is February 4th. It's a wonderful Friday, guys. We got 9 games to talk about. I'm always excited. It's always exciting when I got somebody else on here too, Al, where I'm just not talking to myself. I get a second to take a sip of water. You don't have to hear the raspy voice come in, but we were just chatting a little bit before we hopped on here, talking a little hoops. You were just down here. You didn't even know I moved to Dallas, which I didn't expect it to. I didn't expect that, but you informed me that, your father, are you part of that season ticket package, or is it just your dad where you kind of?
Yes, I'm part of the season ticket package, yes. So the Celtics season tickets, yeah.
Are you a Celtic fan?
Yes.
Or just, I was going to say, yeah. But sometimes you just get born into season tickets, and you're not going to turn those away. That sort of. But so where are you at with the whole Jalen Brown thing? Do you think you guys want to move on from him, or you want to just hold on to him for dear life?
I don't know about hold on for dear life, but yeah, at the moment I want to hang on. They the two Jays finally look like they could coexist much better. Like in the beginning of the season, it was like one or the other. Like the season opener in New York. Jason was terrible, but Jalen went off. And now it looks like they can both, have big nights together and we can win collectively. And our defense has been great. And I don't want to move on right now. I want to keep running the ship right now.
Well, then you're also seeing the rumors, I guess, of like Robert Williams possibly going to Toronto. And I'm hearing a bunch of things. It's also the NBA trade deadline, man. Oh, yeah. The rumblings are happening, man. So
we're not trading Robert Williams, man. His deal is too good. Yeah, no, there's no way. Don't believe that one. I'll tell you here first. No.
All right, cool. I'm glad. I like Robert. I'm a big fan of him. Point per minute machine when you're talking just fantasy in general. But also just one of those. I love the undersized centers, man. The guys that bring back the old Chuck Hayes days. Like, give me an undersized like Charles Barkley type center that just crashes the boards and plays defense. Doesn't need more than 5 or 6 touches a game. That is the key to championships. But we're going to jump right into this. Before we do, though, quick shout out to Thrive Fantasy, guys. Come prop up with us over there on Thrive Fantasy this NBA season. If you haven't heard, Thrive is the daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. At Thrive, you eliminate the countless hours of research and focus only on top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Now, you choose 10 of 20 available player prop bets, build a lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and under based on how likely it is to hit. Hit the most props, rack up the most points, and win your share of a prize pool. Thrive has over $50,000 in guaranteed prizes weekly for the NBA alone, and has awarded over $6 million so far. So when you sign up, head over there. Use the promo code ETHOS, ETHOS. You receive an instant 100% first deposit match on up to $100. So it's instant. Al, I know you signed up for DK one time. You put in that deposit, and they slowly put it into your funds after you play it every night. This is an instant first deposit match. When you use the promo code ETHOS on up to $100. You download Thrive in the App Store, Play Store, or visit their website at www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop today. So, my friend, first game of the night, Cleveland Cavaliers traveling to Charlotte, taking on the Hornets here. So, should be a good one, but we'll start off with the Hornets. Vernon Carey, Kai Jones, Jalen McDaniels, all ruled out. Kelly Oubre Jr. is available, and Gordon Hayward is questionable. And then for the Cavs, Darius Garland, Lauri Markkanen, Ricky Rubio, Colin Sexton, all ruled out. Now let's check to see, because sometimes we record this the night before, and we don't always have a game total. And it looks like at the moment we do, 216.5. Charlotte being favored by 4 points. I will pass it over to my guest, the man of the hour, Al. Talk about this Cleveland Cavs team, I guess who you're looking at with Garland out, and who you're going to be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, with Garland out, we have to play Brandon Goodwin at 4.1K. He got the start on Wednesday for Garland, and he put up 29.75 DraftKings points in 32 minutes. And that was against the Rockets, who are probably the best matchup in basketball right now to attack. You know, they have the worst defense in the league, and they play, I think, at the second fastest pace. And now he gets the Hornets, are probably the second best matchup. You know, they're 26 in defensive efficiency, and I think they're in the top 5 in pace as well. So you got to go right back to him at that price. And he scores 1 fantasy point per minute with a 20% usage rate with Garland, Rubio, and Sexton off the floor. And he's averaging 25 DK fantasy points per game in the 3 games. He's gone over 20 minutes this season. So he's going to be extremely chalky, but I think you got to eat the chalk with Goodwin. And I'm also pretty big on Kevin Love. I haven't been on him at all this season, but in these last 2 without Garland, he's gone over 40 DraftKings points in back-to-back games, and he's played 31 minutes per night in these 2, which is a lot for him. This season, he's scoring 1.3 DK fantasy points per minute. So if you're getting around 31 minutes from Love, he's going to eat. And as I've noted before, you know, the matchup is just perfect against the Hornets. So I really like Love, and he's never popular. He's not going to be popular at this high of a price tag either.
No, I'm right there with you. Those are the 2 guys I had circled. We saw Osman kind of go back to that bench role. Goodwin drew the start for him. And as long as Goodwin's starting, I'm right there with you. You said it perfectly, man. Charlotte's a picture-perfect matchup. And the little boom for both those guys is Charlotte also is absolutely terrible at defending the three-point line. So you look at 2 players on this floor that are going to be able to stretch it. It's probably going to be Goodwin. It's probably going to be a little bit of Kevin Love. I'm right there, both those guys. I think Goodwin is going to be fairly chalky, but I'll eat the chalk right there. There's a ton of value on this slate too, so I'm already getting the feeling like it's going to be a little bit of a stars and scrub type night. We'll slide over to the Charlotte side of the ball over here. Obviously, LaMelo Ball being the key guy that everyone always wants to talk about. Price tag is starting to get back up there, but as long as he's under 10K, I'm going to have consideration for LaMelo. There's no doubt about it. Dude's averaging about 48 DK points in 2 matchups against his team already in the season. And not saying Garland is a picture-perfect defender, but anytime you see that they're putting in spot start players, usually the defense lags behind just ever so slightly. So I don't mind looking at LaMelo. But outside of LaMelo, we got to keep an eye on PJ Washington. He drew that start in the last one. If he draws another start, I'll have interest in PJ at 4,900. It's always helpful that he has the power forward eligibility. But those are the 2 main guys that I'd probably have my eye on, but I'll never fault you if you want to look at somebody as like a Kelly Oubre and a one-off, or Terry Rozier as a pivot to LaMelo, just because this team, when everything's clicking, they all have the upside. They all have the firepower. It's a little difficult when you're playing Charlotte and just trying to figure out who's going to have it that night. But who are you looking at over there on Charlotte?
Yeah, I like LaMelo if Hayward sits. He's gone over 60 DK points in 3 of these past 6 games without Hayward. So I definitely like him if Hayward's out. And like you said, PJ Washington, he's just way too cheap if he draws another start. He played a team high 42 minutes against the Celtics on Wednesday, and he put up 30 fantasy points. I mean, now he's going to be playing a Cavs team that has a big front court and Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Kevin Love. So they're going to need PJ Washington's size. I don't expect him to play 42 minutes again, but if he gets another start with Hayward out, I mean, you got to go to PJ Washington at 4,900, even though this is a tough matchup with Cleveland, a top 5 defense.
Yeah, and I think this is probably going to be looking like the PJ Washington showcase right before the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
I know. Yeah, he's been in a lot of rumors. Whether I've heard Chicago, I've heard several teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if like a Chicago or Utah they want to get an extra good look at him right before the deadline. I think that's kind of what's going on with Thad Young as well. You're going to start seeing a couple players that you wouldn't normally expect to see in rotations or get heavy minutes. If they're on the block, they're going to. But we'll move on to your team, man. Boston Celtics traveling to Detroit, taking on the Pistons here.
Yeah.
Let's look at my bad. I was just going to jump into the injury report real quick. I mean, you already know.
Hit the injury report. My bad.
Actually, there's really no point, man. Everybody for the Celtics is good to go, and we don't have the Pistons. So you were probably right by just jumping right in there. And as of right now, it's 213 game total, 7.5 point spread being favored to the Celtics. Talk about your team. No one's going to know them better than you.
At their price points, I'm not really into anyone on the Celtics tonight. I'm not going to be a homer here. And but I mean, if you want to take a gamble, I like Jalen at his price. He's $1,500 cheaper than Jason Tatum. And at this price, I mean, Jalen could get you 50. You know, Detroit ranks 22nd in defensive efficiency. And when the Celtics are this expensive, you know, the two J's, nobody's really playing them right now. So I do like taking a gamble on JB. Otherwise, I guess you could take a chance on Time Lord. I mean, he could rack up enough defensive stats to beat his price point, but he is getting up there. Yeah, I really would just Jalen Brown's the only guy I really like from the Celtics tonight.
Well said. Yeah, I'm probably not playing anyone outside of like a pivot, like you said. If you're just based on ownership, depending on your contest, but in like single entries and cash, I probably won't have anybody over there.
Oh yeah.
For Detroit though, I mean, maybe a stab at Corey Joseph if we see Cunningham's out again, but you saw it tonight. It was Frank Jackson's night, and that can easily happen again. Frank Jackson's he's a scorer. He's not going to do much outside of scoring. He's not afraid to take his shots, but you know, with all the value we had, we just talked about Goodwin in the prior game. We'll talk about guys later on in the slate where I don't really think I need to really go to anyone here. It's not really a revenge thing with Kelly Olynyk because they're not playing in Boston. Otherwise, I'd say he might be worth a GPP stab in tournaments if you're just looking for somebody that's extremely low owned going against a Boston front court that has the size. The only guy that I could really consider, though, might be Jeremy Grant. He's getting a $500 increase. Remember the usage that this guy had earlier in the season before he had his thumb surgery. Had a decent game tonight, and his ability just to kind of take shots. With no Cunningham, you know he's probably going to lead the team in shot attempts. So he's probably the one guy I might have consideration for. But at $7K, there's plenty of guys on a 9-game slate that we could look at around that price range.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jeremy Grant is underpriced for what his role was earlier in the season. But like we talked about earlier, the Celtics are just playing really good defense right now. I mean, for the season, they're 4th in efficiency. So, I mean, I think the Pistons are full fade for me, even if Cunningham sits. Like, Corey Joseph got the start tonight, but like you said, Frank Jackson was the one that benefited the most. Corey Joseph played 31 minutes, but he only got 22 fantasy points. And I don't think that's going to improve facing Marcus Smart.
Nah, man. Smart is the guy that will literally punch you in the mouth if you flip the double birds at him. Where's that? He went to, was it Oklahoma, OSU he went to?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. That's the one thing I always think of when I think of Marcus Smart. That and great defense. But all right, we'll go on to the next game. Chicago Bulls traveling to Indiana, taking on the Pacers. The Bulls on the second half of a back-to-back tonight. We saw that game. It was a competitive one against the Raptors, and I think Vooch is the guy that kind of came out storming Norman out there. Had a huge monster game. But for the injury report, obviously, we are not going to have the Bulls side of things. But for the Pacers, we have Goga and O'Shea. Brissett, both questionable in this one. Malcolm Brogdon, Isaiah Jackson, TJ McConnell, Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner, all ruled out. So we're most likely going to have to monitor the news because we already know there's going to be some value available in here. But without knowing exactly what's going to go on, it's kind of hard to make a decision right now. 232.5 game total. Chicago favored by 1.5. Talk about this Bulls team on the second half of a back-to-back. You know, still without Caruso, still without Lonzo. It's almost like a Boston situation with these guys for me, man. When they're all priced up, it's kind of hard just to, you know, immediately gravitate towards one over the other, especially on a 9-game slate. But let me get your take on it.
Yeah, I like DeMar DeRozan. I mean, tonight it took him a little. They had to go to overtime for him to grind out 48 DraftKings points, but he only had 12 at half, so he did a lot of his damage in the second half, and he's gone over 50 in 3 of his last 6, I believe, and that is, you know, a product of Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso being out. I mean, with those two guys out, DeMar is operating as like a point forward, and I mean, him compared to Zach LaVine relies so much on his scoring, while DeMar does it in all categories. And DeMar DeRozan is someone that's never popular, and especially with his price tag approaching $10,000. And he's facing this Indy defense that's been dead last in defensive rating in the last 10 games since they lost Miles Turner. So, like you said, the total is extremely high. What is it, over 230, you said?
Yeah, 232.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of points. This is going to be one of the better environments on the slate. So, I definitely like DeMar DeRozan. And like you were saying, Vooch went off last night. He got 64 and a half DK points. And he's gotten 45.8 before last night. He's got 45.8 in the last 6 since Caruso went down. And like I said, the Pacers defense has been terrible. And during that stretch without Turner, they've allowed the most points in the paint in the league. So I definitely like Vooch as well. And I don't mind playing DeRozan and Vooch together. And I don't think that'd be a popular strategy if stacking the Bulls.
No, and I mean we're gonna have value on the other side. That if you're looking, obviously if you're playing one or two of those guys, you might want to, especially you said it, high game total, great game environment. That you have pieces on the other side you can run it back with. So yeah. I'm kind of with you in there. I prefer Vooch over DeRozan. I don't think I'll end up on too much DeRozan. I do like Vooch though at 9,400. You said it perfectly. They're dead last in the paint. No Miles Turner. We just saw that they lost Isaiah Jackson 22 seconds into the game. So RIP. Yeah, RIP everyone's lineups. I think probably 50% of the field had him at that point. So it is what it is. That was chalk I ate and took it off
Me
the
too.
chin.
You were not alone.
No, man, that happens. I can. The amount of times I've just lost because of a guy that was 48 or 4,500 got hurt a couple minutes into the game. I couldn't count.
But he didn't even make it a minute, right?
Not even. So when I didn't start off watching the game. I started making dinner. I ate a little bit, and I was like, all right, let me go check some scores. I pulled up NBA.com real quick on my phone while I was eating, and I saw it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, he's got 0 points, 0 boards, 0 everything. And is that 22 minutes? And then I had to look at it again. I was like, no, it's 22 seconds.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on here? But I figured it out quickly after I jumped on Twitter and found out what happened. I'm like, yep, there we go. I can shut the phone for the night. Yeah, no need to. But that's probably the only guy I'm looking at. I want to keep an eye on Levine too because he was questionable coming in. His status was kind of getting upgraded, downgraded, and eventually he was available. And it's a back-to-back. So with Levine dealing with injuries throughout the season and a little bit of nagging, they might opt to give him the night off on this one, especially going against a weak Indiana team. So that's something to keep an eye on. If he were to sit, you could take a look at Kobe or Ao. I have no problem doing that. But for the most part, I'm probably just gonna be looking at Vooch.
Now that you say that, Levine, they said 40 minutes ago he's uncertain for Friday. So
boom, didn't even see that, man.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely, I would definitely go right back to DeRozan if Levine's out. I mean, the ball's gonna be in his usage would be sky high, and so would Vooch.
Oh yeah. We see that the nice 26 points. 6 rebound, 8 assist game from DeRozan that we always. And it's crazy because he's a guy throughout his career. People kind of always talked a little junk about him and said all he does is score. And I think ever since he went to San Antonio, things changed. He kind of reacclimated to his environment, and he's doing it again here. Dude got better with age. He's like a fine wine over there. But
exactly.
On the Indiana side of the ball, obviously you got to keep an eye on the center position because who knows what's going on. If Jackson plays, we're gonna probably have some interest in him. $6K is a high price tag to pay, so I'd probably shy away from him.
Jackson was rolled out.
Oh, Jackson was already rolled out. You're right. So it's actually Goga and Brissett that were.
Yeah. Yep.
So if Brissett plays, Goga's out. I think he probably draws the start over Taylor. Now I could be wrong there because Taylor just came out into the scene like a bull in a china shop to put up 52 DK points, 24 and 16 game. Bottom line, you're just going to want to keep an eye on the center position. That's the most important part over here. So if Goga sits, Brissett plays, it's going to throw a little bit of a wrinkle in there, but you could probably feel confident in whoever you see drawing the start. It's the first game of the night, 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. start time. We'll have that news. So just keep your eye on that starting position at center because that's the guy that you're going to probably want the most on this team. And it's probably going to be between – I don't imagine Goga plays. They said the injury is not serious, but – I'm still thinking that it would probably be either Taylor or Brissett, and I have no problem going to either one of those guys, $4K and $4,200 respectively. Outside of those two guys, probably not playing Duarte. I can never get Justin Holiday right, man. I get him right once a year, and I already did it earlier in the year, so I'm not going to pick my poison with that. And I wouldn't fault you if you want to go to LeVert. The games have been up and down recently at 8,400. You really need at least 45 DK points like you did in that last one for a tournament at the very least. You can get away with 38 to 40 in your cash for single entries. But I'm just not on a 9-game slate. I got other options at 8,400 I'd rather play.
Yeah, like you said it best. I mean, even if Goga and Brissett are both active, I think whoever starts will be viable because they're all cheap enough, and whoever starts, that's the guy they're going to rely on. So whoever starts, I think, is worth a gamble, absolutely, against in this high total. And the Chicago defense has been not just as bad, but they've been very bad as well, ranking 25th in defensive rating in the new year. So I definitely like LeVert. Last game he put up 45 fantasy points and he saw a 35% usage rate. And like I said, this is just a great environment. The Bulls are on the second leg of back-to-back. So, and I don't think LeVert will be popular because, like you said, his game log is kind of up and down.
For sure. We'll move on to the 7:30 Eastern start time. Atlanta Hawks traveling to Toronto. Both these teams are on back-to-back, so we do not have an injury report for either team. We don't have a game total at the moment either, so something that you're going to have to keep your eye on. Looking at this Hawks team, though, they're pretty much good to go outside of like Lou Williams. In Toronto, they even got Ken Birch back, so they're pretty much fully healthy for as far as we know. We'll see what happens tomorrow. This all could be null and void, but I will pass it over to you. Talk about this Hawks team. Can you go to Trae Young in a back-to-back at under 10K?
Yeah, he played well tonight, coming back from that one-game absence. But I just don't like this game environment at all. Both of these teams rank in the bottom 10 in pace, and Toronto's fourth in defensive efficiency. And like you said, they're both on a back-to-back. And with the Hawks almost full strength, I really just don't. I don't think I'm investing in any Hawk tonight.
Can't blame you. Not a ton of interest. I like Collins' price tag, but it's not the type of matchup that I want to target him in. Anytime he's under 7K, I always have a little interest in him. We can't trust Capella at this point because he's been getting outplayed by a Kungwu. So for the most part, I'm not playing the Russian roulette with the wings over there, Bogdanovich, Huerter, and Hunter. One of those guys, I'm sure, is going to have a good game. Don't get me wrong, but sitting here trying to guess, if you're building multiple lineups, sure, maybe take a stab at him. But I don't think either. I don't see any of them having like a tournament winning upside kind of thing in this kind of matchup. So I'll probably shy away from them. On the Toronto side of the ball, I think I like Van Vliet at 8,600. Anytime there's a point guard going against either Devontae Graham or Trae Young, it always is something I circle. It's just those guys play such porous defense. They get cooked. I think Trae Young, dating back to his rookie year, has been one of the worst defensive point guards in the league. I think even when Isaiah Thomas was playing, I don't want to take any jabs at you, man, because I know former Celtic had his best years there. I know you still got a soft spot for him, but
of course,
him and Isaiah Thomas, they were the two worst. They were comparable, and that's how bad Trae Young was at defense. And so I don't mind taking a stab at Van Vliet. I hopped off the Gary Trent Jr. train. I'm saying this, tonight as we record this the night before, and even in overtime, it worked out well for me. I pivoted to Derek White on that aspect, and I don't think I'm going to hop back on just yet. I've seen too many games. I know he was on a 5-game heater with 30-plus points in all those games. But I know who the real Gary Trent Jr. is. And when everybody's active on this team, they're all fairly priced. They're all priced appropriately. It's almost like a crapshoot. Would it surprise me if OG has a big game? No, not at all. Would it surprise me if Siakam just continues doing what he's doing? Not at all. But I'm trying to capitalize on certain spots, and I don't think this is one of the spots I want to really capitalize on anyone outside of Van Vliet.
Yeah, and like we said, this is the back-to-back for Toronto, but it's not just a back-to-back. They played an overtime game Thursday night against the Bulls, so they're going to be even more run down. Gary Trent's price gone up a little bit. I think he's viable, but at this point, I don't know. The matchup here, I'm not really interested.
All right. We'll move on to a more fantasy-friendly game. Houston Rockets traveling to San Antonio. This is an 8:30 Eastern Standard start time. We have San Antonio on the second half of a back-to-back here. The Rockets, they are good to go outside of Usman Garuba, who we know is going to be out for, I think, the next 6 to 8 weeks, they said. Or is it season ending? Either way, we're not playing them. And then we'll go to the game line and game total. This is going to be the largest game total of the night. 239. San Antonio being favored by 3 points. That just pretty much says all you need to know, my man. So why don't you talk about this Houston team? And who we can look at. And I guess I could touch on San Antonio here because we know that Portal is still in the concussion protocol, but Murray sat out tonight's game. McDermott sat out tonight's game. There's a decent chance one, if not both, sit out again tomorrow. But give me your breakdown on Houston first, and then we'll talk about San Antonio after.
Yeah, Houston's a tough team to predict like all season. It's almost like they feed too many mouths, but I like Christian Wood here. I think he's got upside in the spot. But I'm really not that interested at his high price tag. I know the game environment's perfect, but his floor is always shakier than it seems. I think the team to attack in this game is definitely San Antonio, with or without DeJounte Murray. Everything depends on his status. If he's out, Trey Jones is a really good play. He would start. And this is just the best matchup in basketball. Like I said earlier, Houston ranks dead last in efficiency, defensive efficiency, and they're one of the fastest teams in basketball. Trey Jones is averaging 24.75 DK fantasy points per game in the 4 starts he's made without Murray. And he's seen over 30 minutes in 3 of those 4 starts, with that one exception being a huge blowout loss. So he's going to see over 30 minutes if Murray sits, and you got to play him. And then, like you said, with Jakob and Jock, how do you say his last name? Landale?
Jock Landale. Oh man, we're butchering this.
I'm just going to call him Jock.
Cool.
Because Jakob and Jock are both going to be out with concussions. And we saw Thad Young start tonight, and he's a bare minimum. And Thursday night, he put up 24 DK fantasy points in 24 minutes, and that was a blowout. So we could actually see him get towards 30 minutes tonight in this competitive environment. So, and you can use him as a power forward or a center. And if he's starting again at $3,000, he's honestly a must play. He's kind of a free square. So, and the eight contests that Thad Young's gone over 20 minutes this season, he's averaging 28 fantasy points. So, like I said, must play if he's starting.
Absolutely. You said it perfectly, my friend. I'm kind of right there with you with Houston, not really looking at it too much, but I'm playing Trey Jones. I'm eating the chalk there. I'm playing Thad. I'll eat the chalk there. There's no issues. These guys are so cheap that I don't need 30 to 40. Even if Trey Jones gets me 25, I'll take it. If I get my 20 or 25 from Thad Young, that's kind of why I think I said it earlier in the show. It just feels like it's going to be stars and scrubs. And I'll play Derek White. I'll play 2. I'll play 3. Depending on the type of build I'm looking at, I'll play all these guys just because Derek White, again, if there's no DeJounte Murray, absolutely sign me up. And even if DeJounte plays, man, if DeJounte plays, we're not probably looking at Trey Jones anymore. We'll still play Thad Young, but I'll play DeJounte. This is a picture-perfect matchup. He's torched him. He's averaging 60 DK points against the Rockets this season. So I love this game environment. I love the Spurs. I'll probably have a bare minimum, at least 2 Spurs in every single one of my lineups, I think, just based on what actually happens. But I'm right there with you for the most part on the guys that you're looking at too.
Yeah, they're definitely one of the better teams to stack tonight, no matter what, if Murray plays or not. But like you said, if Murray plays, you got to invest in him too. The guy's a triple-double threat every time he steps on the floor. And like you said, he's destroyed Houston this season. And it does not.
Are you a narrative guy? Are you a narrative guy, Al?
Yeah, I'm a narrative guy.
Because you got a snub, no reserve, no all-star reserve.
Exactly. There we go. Yes, that's the stuff why we go on the podcast for.
That's it, man. You always gotta love a nice all-star snub narrative. So maybe he comes out here and just says, well, let me show you what I got. But we'll move on.
I mean, he ranks second only to Jokic in triple doubles this year. I think he's got 10. So I mean, and again, the 3-point, you get 3 extra fantasy points for getting a triple double on DraftKings. So DeJounte Murray does not get the respect he deserves, like pricing wise. I don't think he should be over $11,000.
He never draws ownership either. Like it's crazy. Like he gets. Don't get me wrong. He gets a decent amount, but compared to when we see other guys on the slate, like I don't know about you. I play him more than I play Jokic. I play him more than I play Doncic. I play him probably more than I play Embiid. He just never gets the ownership I anticipate when I'm building my lineups. And give me it. I don't know what else people need to see. He's never more than 10. I think 10.5 is probably the most expensive he's been all season.
I'm looking at it right now. I think it is.
Yeah, I'll pay it. I'll pay him up to 11 at this point. There's no issues there. The dude's a walking triple double, and he's got the probably one of the better floors of all those guys outside of Jokic, where he's never really getting you less than 40 to 45 on most nights, unless he just puts up a dud and then you just take that one off the chin because it happens so few and far in between. But even when compared to like Morant, when he's on slates with Morant, I play him 90% of the time over Morant.
Me too. Same here.
There's no doubt about it. But we'll move on to the next game, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Start Time. New Orleans Pelicans traveling to Denver, taking on the Nuggets after we just spoke about Jokic. She heard us. She's here. DeMarcus Cousins questionable. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., as we know, are ruled out. For the Pelicans, Josh Hart is questionable. Willie Hernan-Gomez is going to be in the health and safety protocols. Garrett Temple, Zion, Kira Lewis Jr., all ruled out. And then we'll look at the the game total here for this one. A 220 game total. Denver being favored by 2.5 points. Talk about the Pelicans. It looks like that with Josh Hart out, a few more wing minutes may open up. How do you think this team uses them? Do we see Gary Clark? Do we see a guy? One of my favorites that we haven't seen much of at all this season has been Najee Marshall. Or does it just go to Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
If Hart sits, I think it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think he's the guy that would benefit the most. And I also think Ingram would benefit, from some extra usage for sure. But I could see Hart playing. And if Hart plays, I don't think he's a bad play either at 65. He just plays so much and he fills the stat sheet up he's such a good rebounder. He gets good defensive stats. He's always a threat for over 40 fantasy points. And he's another guy that people don't like paying this much for. So I like Hart if he plays. And another guy is Jackson Hayes has started the last 2 games for the Pelicans, and he's played 31 and 26 minutes in those past 2 starts. He scores right under 1 fantasy point per minute this year, and he's produced 26.6 DK fantasy points per game in the 5 contests. He's gone over 20 minutes. So I definitely like him in this environment. If he gets another start, he's only $4,200.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about with Hayes is that he doesn't start because Hernan Gomez is out, and they might just want to keep him as a backup now that they don't have like a third center really on the roster that they could really use. But it's definitely something worth monitoring because if he does start, he's another option. I still probably prefer all those Spurs guys over him. I still probably prefer Brandon Goodwin over him. But that's where you get him in there as a pivot right around the same price range as some of those guys where if he draws that start, he's going to be a little bit lower owned. It's definitely worth taking a stab on some GPPs. But for the most part, man, I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker might be the only guy I look at. And I'm not even all that thrilled about him because when I want to play him is when Devontae Graham or Brandon Ingram's out. I just want him to have that, that pistol where he's just going to shoot 15 to 20 times with no care in the world. And we haven't really seen that in many games with Brandon Ingram actually playing. So I don't want to go too much here. I think Jonas is always worth a play just because we know his upside. If he's playing 30-plus minutes, maybe that, with only one backup center, we end up getting 34, 35 minutes out of him, which is well over a season average. Then I could take a stab at him. Not the greatest of matchups. I'm not saying Jokic is really great defensively, but he did drop 52 DK points on them in 39 minutes earlier in the season. So we know the upside's there. But 85 is probably right where he should be priced. It's not like we're getting much of a discount there.
He could get in foul trouble so bad and get you like 10.
Oh, yeah. Believe me. I've been that guy that's been on the receiving end. I played Jonas probably more than I should have this season. And when he was on Memphis, he won me a shit ton of money. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, he was a plug and play at Memphis.
Oh, dude, it was insane because I remember like for probably the first like 6 games of the season, I was just playing him every night because he was like 6K or 6,400. The people didn't understand the free Jonas narrative where the dude's one of the best point per minute guys in the league. He just was never getting the minutes when he was in Toronto. And then once he got freed, boom, lock him in. Jokic, 12-4. It's a fantastic matchup, man. It's a good matchup, but we've talked about a few priced up guys already. He's averaging 70 DK points against his team, so he's going to be paying off that 12-4 price tag if he gets there. I'm not going to say don't play him. I'm going to have a couple shares. It's I always try to break it down to like if I'm playing a single entry, is he going to be in my lineup? Probably. I don't want to say probably not. We have a ton of value, man. I think I actually will have a decent amount of Jokic. I'm talking myself into it because I don't see myself going to too much Harden later on. I don't see myself going to a ton of Embiid. So I think Jokic would be, if I'm spending up over that like 11.5 range or 11 range, I think he would be my top option. Outside of him, I don't think I play much of anybody else on this team outside of Jokic. But you give me your take. Are you playing him at 12-4 or are you going to prefer one of those other high price studs?
I'm definitely playing him. I think he's the best stud to build around on the slate. He is every time he's in action, but I definitely think tonight he's back home after a 6-game road trip. And this season, he's averaging 6 fantasy points more in Denver. He's always had dramatic home and away splits, but it's even crazier this year. And like you said, he's averaging 70 against the Pelicans in 2 meetings. In both of those games, he got a triple-double. So, and he basically got rested the other night when they ruled him out in Utah. So he's coming back home. He's well-rested. I absolutely like him at this price. And you mentioned him. Embiid is at the same price as Jokic tonight. Embiid's in Dallas. There's no way I'm playing Embiid at the same price over Jokic. There's no chance.
No, even Doncic, I think, when it comes down to it, you get a better floor out of Jokic over Doncic. They both have that same upside. Jokic hits that upside more often, and he has a higher floor than Doncic on most nights. So we're right on the same page there. Brooklyn traveling to Utah, taking on the Jazz here. Jazz looks like Donovan Mitchell has been cleared from the concussion protocol, and he is not on the injury report, but Jordan Clarkson is questionable. Rudy Gobert has been ruled out along with Daniel House. We know Joe Ingles is missing the rest of the season. And then Hassan Whiteside is questionable. LaMarcus Aldridge, Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, Paul Millsap, David Duke Jr. are all ruled out here for Brooklyn. Looking at the game total, 227.5. Utah being favored by 1.5 points here, which is a little bit of a surprising game total, knowing that they're still getting favored here and there, but we know Gobert, it's a completely different team. Talk about this Brooklyn team. It is an away game, so Kyrie is going to be active. Are you looking at either one of the two studs, or are you going to go back to that Claxton well after that monster one?
Yeah, both Harden and Kyrie are pretty expensive right now. If I'm taking a gamble on one of them, I'm taking a gamble on a bounce back performance from Harden. I'm not playing Kyrie over 10 grand unless he's riding solo without Harden and KD. I'm just not going to do it. And like you said, I do like Claxton. With Aldridge out the other night, he started and he put up a double-double of 51 fantasy points against the Kings in 29 minutes. And the 29 minutes is really encouraging because all the games before that, I think it was 5 games since he returned from a hamstring injury, he played under 20 minutes. So playing 29 minutes is a sign that he is back to full strength. And the Jazz are just terrible on defense without Gobert. Even if they have Whiteside is lackadaisical. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if he's starting. So Utah's been 25th in defensive rating in the last 5 without Gobert. So this is really a friendly matchup. And I like the part about Claxton I like is that he's up to 4,900 and everybody's going to be playing the Spurs. I'm not saying don't play the Spurs, but Claxton's going to come with way less ownership because he's almost $5,000. So
that's it, man. I'm on Claxton. I'm off everybody else for the most part. I wouldn't fault you if you want to play Harden, but I'll find the extra $900 or $1,000 and get myself to Jokic pretty easily with all the value. And you said it, pretty perfectly. Whiteside is lackadaisical. I can't tell you how many arguments I got into like some of my hometown friends where even when he was on the Heat and they're like, oh, but this guy gets 3 blocks a game. What do you mean he's not good at defense? He sucks. He sucks on defense. He's not good at just because you get blocks or get steals does not mean you're good at defense. It means that you challenge everybody at the rim and you're going to get cooked a lot. And occasionally, you're going to get a couple blocks in there. Don't get me wrong. But he's terrible on defense. I almost like Claxton more if Whiteside plays. I think that just going small ball, if Whiteside sits, we could easily see that. I mean, there's no Rudy Gay on the other side of the ball either. I believe he already got rolled out too. So they could just end up going a little bit smaller, and then we might see less Claxton. So in terms of Claxton, I hope that he actually does play. They need some size in there, and then that would help him out a little bit. On the other side of the ball, Donovan Mitchell, 8,400. I'm a little tossed and turning over this guy. I'm throwing it up in the air. 8,400 is a great price tag for him in this matchup. It's just him missing so many games, doing the concussion protocol. Do they come back and play him 35 minutes? I think they do, but let me get your take on it. I mean, he's the only guy I really have any consideration for over here. I don't think I'm going to really go to. I mean, I could see a Royce O'Neal because we're probably going to end up seeing with no Ingles and no Gay really that he could get an extra run, but. I'm not really too thrilled about anybody.
With you. Yeah, I agree with you totally that Mitchell, this is such a good price for Mitchell. I mean, he was almost 10 grand back in January. And if he isn't limited, he's someone that I think people might sleep on, but you got to attack him at this discount. His usage goes slightly up without Gobert, and he scores 1.3 DK fantasy points per minute with the center off the floor. And this game has one of the highest total in the night. And like I said, he could be out. I mean, he could be low owned after being out for so long, but I think you got to take a chance on Mitchell, barring that we get a word that he's going to be limited.
Yeah, and you don't play a guy coming off of a concussion if he can't play. It's not like hamstring or anything like that where they might be a little tentative. I think he plays a full complement.
Yeah, and the other thing is if Clarkson gets ruled out, I mean, Mitchell's usage is going to be sky high. So it's definitely something to watch.
Got to factor it, my man. All right. Yeah. Two games left. 10 p.m. start time. We're getting to the late games now. Philadelphia traveling to Dallas, taking on my Mavericks here. So we're probably pretty much the same of not being homers because I can't tell you how many times I have not played the Mavericks this season. But Sterling Brown, Porzingis, Tim Hardaway Jr. all rolled out. For the Sixers, Steph Curry is questionable. Then we have Furkan Korkmaz, Shake Milton, Paul Reed, Ben Simmons, Jaden Springer all ruled out on that side of the ball. Looking at the game total here, it is 210. Dallas favored by 1. I'll pass it over to you to talk about the Sixers.
Yeah, like we touched on it when we were talking about Jokic, Embiid is 12-4 now. And, I mean, no disrespect to Embiid. He's having a great year. He's in the MVP, on the race. But that's just a little too pricey for me, especially against this Dallas defense that's 5th in efficiency. And I'd way rather just play Jokic. There's no question. If Steph Curry sits, I do like Tyrese Maxey at 74. Even in this bad matchup, he scored 45.5 DK fantasy points against the Wizard with Curry out on Wednesday. And the less than ideal matchup in Dallas would probably result in low ownership. So I think Maxey's worth a flyer.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I don't love the Maxey price tag, but if we do see Seth out, obviously that usage goes. It gets raised, and I think Maxi's probably been making a case for himself all season long on why he should have been starting from the start and why he should have got more run last season. The dude looks like he has the potential to be a future All-Star. There's no doubt about it. He's very, very good. Doc Rivers loves this kid. They said that I think they were talking about the Bradley Beal trade, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll give you Simmons. There's not a chance in hell we throw in Maxi. Maxi will not be traded. They're not going to throw in Maxi for anything. They want this kid for the future. They love him. So he's probably the one guy I'd have consideration for. And even with that being said, I don't think I'll land on him all that much. Nobody else over there for me. And then on the Dallas side of the ball, I will not be playing anybody over here as well. It's just that simple. I don't love this game environment. Maxi Kleber will draw another start. He'll probably play a bunch of minutes. He's had 38 DK points or more in 2 out of the last 3 games. But he did not go against a guy like Joel Embiid in 2 out of the last 3 games. He actually had pretty lackluster several centers. Went against Indiana in that one game, and then went against OKC in the other. So I will take a pass over here. I'll let other people fall for that trap. No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Luka, and I actually think he'll be maybe somewhat decently low owned with DeJounte Murray in such a good spot and Jokic back home. He's gone over 70 in these last 2 with Porzingis and Tim Hardaway. And with those 2 off the floor, his usage goes up to nearly 40%. His assist rate's almost at 50%. He scores 1.7 DK fantasy points per minute without Porzingis and Tim Hardaway Jr. So even though this matchup is brutal, and like you said, the environment's gross, the total's down to 210, I think Luka is still worth investing in. If you're playing multiple teams, I would definitely have a share of Luka. And then Reggie Bullock has been solid since Tim Hardaway broke his foot. He's got 31 DK fantasy points per game in these last 4 without Hardaway. He isn't starting, but he's seen over 30 minutes in back-to-back games. So he's a decent flyer with small forward, always so thin at only 4,500.
Yeah, and he's basically just slotted right into that Tim Hardaway Jr. role where coming off the bench, playing about 25 to 26 minutes. If the shots fall into, you're in good shape with him. I don't disagree with anything you said. I'm not going to sit here and tell people don't play Luka Doncic because we know, we just talked about it. He has the same upside that Jokic has. It's just, again, I try to build this out like I'm playing a single game entry. And if you're building multiple, have shares of Luka, no doubt about it. If I'm building one, I probably won't have him.
Oh, yeah. If you're building one, I would not go with Luka, no.
No.
But multiple, definitely, I would have a share.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's where you're going to get the most. People think it's sometimes fading. It is fading the value chalk sometimes. I'm sure Al will attest to this. If you faded Isaiah Jackson the other night, you were probably winning no matter what the hell your lineup looked like. But
exactly, you're printing money if you didn't have him.
Yeah, for sure. 50% owned in most of these tournaments where it's. But a lot of times it's simply just pivoting with studs in mid-tier range guys, where that's going to be the biggest edge. Where sometimes if you can get a Luka at like 16% ownership, that's a good day. You know what I mean? Because you're going to probably imagine Jokic is going to sit somewhere in that 25 to 28 range in tournaments. DeJounte would probably sit even a little higher than that, 33 to 34, I imagine, at his price tag. And you got a couple other studs that we've already mentioned on this slate where, I could see Luka drawing less than 20% ownership. And if that's the case, he's worth playing in a few. No doubt about it.
In this game, who do you think gets more ownership, Embiid or Luka?
Luka, for sure. I don't think anybody goes to Embiid with just Jokic being $100 more, where if you're spending up at the center position. And especially just because we've already talked about a few value centers and guys with center eligibility, where spending up at guard feels like it's a little bit safer. I think the only real guard values that we talked about were like Trey Jones and Brandon Goodwin for just like supreme value, where I think most people will end up opting to just spend up at the center position. And then you can still play like Thad Young at forward. You can still play some of that guard value. I don't think they're going to spend up on Embiid. I think Jokic. So maybe with everything we just said, Embiid makes her the greatest tournament pivot, but I won't take my chance there. I'll Final game of the night, my friend. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard game. OKC traveling to Portland, taking on the Blazers. Shai Gilgeous, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Isaiah Roby, Aaron Wiggins all rolled out. Robinson-Earl just fractured his right foot, so I think 6 to 8 weeks is what they're giving him. For the Blazers, CJ Ellaby's probable. Damian Lillard, that sounded weird. Damian Lillard, Nasir Little, Cody Zeller, all rolled out. Larry Nance Jr. and Trendon Watford are questionable. As of right now, let's check this game total. Coming in at 214.5. Portland favored by 7.5 points. Talk about OKC and what you're looking at over there.
Yeah, I like Josh Giddey with that SGA. He's averaging 37 DK fantasy points in the 6 starts he's made without SGA. He slides over to point guard and he plays his natural role and he just stuffs the stat sheet without SGA. I really like him, especially at this higher price. The other night, without SGA, Giddey was only 3% owned in DraftKings fadeaway, which is their main GPP of the night. So I don't think he's going to get into double digits tonight. And this Portland defense is 29th in efficiency. So I really like Giddey. I could see him getting a double-double in this. And I also like Lou Dort at 64. I mean, the price tag is high for Lou Dort when you think about it that way. But he scored 35 and 46 DK fantasy points in the last two without SGA. And the 35 came against this same Portland defense that he's going to face tonight. And with SGA off the floor, he leads OKC with a 25% usage rate. And he's been on fire shooting-wise as of late. He's showing 48% from the field and 44% from beyond the arc. So I like Lou Dort, and he's another one that I just don't think is going to have much ownership in this game. So those are my two guys I like from the Thunder.
He never does, man. I've been conducting the Lou Dort train for the past 3 games, and it's been profitable. Actually, I lost a bet to our good friend Harris Kermani. He's another one of the podcasts with me on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights. We made a little friendly bet because I tried to get cute, and it was Gary Trent Jr. versus Lou Dort, and they both were great. But I think Gary Trent scored like 46 that night or something, and Dort got 35 or 36. So I lost that one. But 6,400 still, I know it's expensive, but it's a great matchup. With the usage he's going to get with Shea off the floor, I mean, he's probably going to lead this team in shot attempts going forward. And with that being said, he's already put up a 35 or 36-point game on this team earlier in the year. I'm good with both these guys. I think they're both fantastic options. I don't mind looking at either one of them. And the only other guy I think is even worth mentioning might be Darius Bazley. Only in tournaments. Don't trust him in cash. But the minutes have been a little up and down. But over the past 3 games, he's played 36, 26, and then 32 minutes. Again, another guy that they're going to need a little bit more scoring punch from. And I'm not the biggest Bazley fan, but at 4,400, there's worse you can do. He scored at least 26 DK points in those 3 games, 35 in the last one. So a decent little option, but nothing fantastic. On the Portland side of the ball, though, everybody's kind of priced appropriately is what I'm getting the vibe here. I hear CJ McCullen coming in at 8,300. It's a fantastic matchup. But I don't think I'm paying 83 for him with some of these other guys that we've already spoke about. Nurkic should be able to have a feast on these guys. He put up 30 DK points in only 30 minutes, but I imagine we see a little bit more of an uptick. This is a great matchup for centers. They've, OKC's been absolutely terrible against opposing centers all season long. But I just don't love the price tags compared to some of the other options we have on the slate. I think the one guy that you might be able to get away with is Anthony Simons, but seems like he's starting to cool off after his heater for the past few weeks.
Yeah, and I worry about Anthony Simons with Lou Dort on the other side. Like we saw on Monday night when these two teams faced, Simons played 34 minutes, but he only got 17. So I feel you with the appeal that he's going to be like a low-owned pivot, but I don't really like him in this spot. And Nurkic, too, he's just a little too expensive for me. I mean, he's going to have the high usage without Lillard, and OKC is a good spot to attack, and he's back at home. But it seems like Larry Nance is going to play, and if Larry Nance plays, I feel like that cuts into Nurkic's numbers a little bit, and a little bit enough to scare me away at this price tag.
Good call, my friend. Good call. And, yeah, how many centers have we talked about already? I mean, we're using Jokic on one spot. Yeah. We're going to be playing some of these cheaper guys as well, so probably not the room for him at the end of the day. But that brings us home. That's all 9 games. So now I gave you the heads up, Al. We do a little player tier segment. We're going to break down 3 tiers, expensive, middle tier, and value. Why don't you go ahead? You're the guest. You're the man of the hour. Give me your top tier spend up on the slate.
My favorite guy to spend up is Jokic. Like I said, he's the number 1 play on the slate every time he's in action, but I think he's almost a must play when he's back at home. And he's back at home after being rested just on Wednesday night. He's going to be facing this Pelicans defense. He's destroyed. I think you got to pay it for Jokic. He should honestly be $13,000 tonight. I
can't fault you there. He would have been mine if you didn't say him, but we don't allow repeats over here, man. So I got to switch it up a little bit. I would say it's DeJounte if he plays. Obviously, if DeJounte doesn't play, he no longer becomes an option in which I'd probably end up sliding down. And this is where it gets tough because I'm looking at Van Vliet. I'm looking at Mitchell. I'd probably go with Mitchell at 84, just knowing that Toronto coming off an overtime back-to-back, a little bit of a caveat there. So he'd be the next guy over that 8K range that I'm looking to kind of pair with Jokic. Now we'll break down the mid-tier, man. Anything between 5 and 7.9, so it's a little bit of a wide range, a lot of options. Who are you taking a look at?
I think my favorite guy for GPPs is Kevin Love. I really like the way they've been using him, and with Garland out. I mean, if he's playing around 30 minutes, you've got to play him. And as we noted on in the beginning of the show, I mean, Charlotte is, I think, the second best matchup to attack after Houston. So again, Kevin Love, and I think the price tag is going to force people away from him. And this is such a big slate that no one's playing Kevin Love. I really like him for tournaments.
Yeah, no one's going to argue with that. I agree. And that's two things I think if people listen to the show often or every day, whatever it might be, they always hear me mention it's, Houston, Charlotte, who's playing them tonight. And that's who we're getting these one or two guys from. It's just that simple. Those are the easiest chalk you can hit is playing guys going against those two teams. So I'm right there with you. I think that's a fantastic option. Again, this is going to be another little caveat. DeJounte sits. I have no issues looking at Derek White at 6,400. He'd be a guy I'm looking at. But again, we should have that news. I believe that was one of the early games, if I'm not mistaken. Nah, it's a little bit halfway through. So if you end up getting the news and you have him in your lineup, maybe you're playing him in that utility spot, wherever you might be playing him, you can always swap off. I don't mind looking at Dort at 6,400. Again, we talked about it. A guy that just draws no ownership night-to-night basis, has plenty of upside, should be leading the team in shot attempts. He's been shooting the ball well. He's got a lot of things going for him, so I don't mind going back to the Dort well. And then your value play, anything under 4,900. We should say, what Spurs guy are you looking at?
I mean, you got to go Thad Young if he's starting. I can see Popovich-ing us and going with a completely different starting lineup. But, I mean, you got to go Thad Young. If he's named the starter, you got to play him at either one of you. Being able to play him as a forward or center gives you so much flexibility tonight, and it's just something you can't overlook. He would be a free square if he's starting at bare minimum.
Oh, for sure. And then I would probably just roll right on the same team and look at a guy like Trey Jones if we see that Murray sits, and if Murray plays, I'd say Brandon Goodwin right over there. So we talked about all those guys, I think, an extent. We were pretty much both on the same page with them. And that is our player tier segment. So let's talk about Thrive Fantasy, guys. Now we're going to give one Thrive pick each for what we think is a good player prop that you guys can take advantage of on this slate. So I will let you lead again. You're the guest, the man of the hour. Talk about your favorite Thrive Fantasy pick.
Yeah, the one that stood out to me when I was looking over there is I like LeVert over 3.5 assists. As we talked about earlier, he's playing point guard right now with Malcolm Brogdon out, with TJ McConnell out, and Domantas Sabonis is out too, and Miles Turner. And with no Sabonis, I mean, LeVert is soaking up so much playmaking opportunity here. And he's facing this Bulls team that was on the second night of a back-to-back, and they went to overtime. And their defense has been 25th in defensive rating in the new year. So they've been plummeting defensively. This game has one of the higher totals in the nights, and LeVert has gone over 3 assists in 5 of his last 6 with Brogdon out. So I really like him for over 3.5.
I like it. I'll probably go with Jeremy Grant. As much as we said about Boston's defense as being tough, we're looking at 18.5 points and rebound total. I mean, it's not a greatest matchup. He can get that done in points alone. We know he's always good for anywhere between 5 or 6 rebounds on most nights. That gives you a clean 100 for the over. It's 100 for the under. I'll take the over on that for 18.5 points plus rebounds. So there's your 2 Thrive Fantasy picks. Now, guys, go give my man a follow. He took the time out. He joined us, came with the heat. You can find Al at Hunta512. That is HUNTA 512. And Al, let the people know where they can find your work. I mean, you're contributing in a few different spots. You're one of the names in the community. Let people know where they can find you. I mean, they're probably going to hear this show and want to find a little bit more about you and see where they can read your stuff. So tell them where they could.
Yeah, I contribute at DK Live, which is DraftKings' content team. I write NBA targets there every Monday. I also have a PGA article I do every Tuesday there. And then I contribute a daily NBA article at Awesemo. And that's based off their boom bust tool, which is a tool that based on their projections, which are the best in the business, and they use their ownership projections as well, which are also the best in the business. They give each player a boom rating and a bust rating. And the boom rating is their chances based on our projections to hit 5 times value plus 10 fantasy points. And then their bust rating is their chance to not hit 5 times value. So every day I write an article about some guys I like from that and some guys that I don't like from that tool. So that's Monday through Friday on awesemo.com. So be sure to check that out and shoot me a follow.
Absolutely. Give my man a follow out there. Well deserved for sure. And then I didn't ask you this in the beginning, but tell people before we get out of here, a quick little fun fact about you, something that, only your friends might know. Put you on the spot.
A quick little fun fact.
You're an interesting guy. You got to have something about you that's interesting.
I'll give you a DFS one. Way back in the day, I've been playing for 10, 11 years, and I got into this playing DFS because my dad showed me it. And me and him play, I don't know, he plays every night, and you know what I mean? I play every night. And back in the day we were on vacation, and this is the Draft Street days, and I actually won the tournament, and he actually placed in second. And we weren't, we weren't together or anything. So it was a pretty cool night that we came first and second in the tournament together.
You do that at DraftKings nowadays. The next thing you know, you got the FBI at your door. That's how you know it's old school. You age yourself a little bit with Draft Street.
Draft Street back in the day, but that was anymore. We didn't even really have same teams. That was the cool part about it. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. It was cool. It was a cool moment though.
Was it a single entry or just a regular tournament play?
Oh, dude, it's so long ago that I honestly think I don't know. It was like the 12. It was like the $12 tournament of the night on Draft Street.
It was always the best, man. That. All right,
I miss the Draft Street days.
Oh, they're long gone and not forgotten though. Anybody that's listened to this and has played Draft Street, make sure you tweet at us and let us know. That kind of just says, listen, I'm an OG that has been here for a while. You earned your seat on the throne. But thank you guys always for tuning in. You can follow me at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. Again, you can find Al at Hunta512. That's HUNTA 512. When you listen, thumbs up, subscribe, 5 stars, wherever you listen, whether it's Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever it might be. Greatly appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow. It will be Mr. Santino himself. Actually, what am I talking about? Yeah, that's me. Duh. I'm not normally on Thursdays, Al, so I'm kind of messing it up here. I'll be doing it. I'll be doing Saturday show, and I'll be riding solo for that. I got to get my shit together out here. I'll be doing Saturday show riding solo, so I will catch you guys there. Al, anything else you want to leave with us before we get out of here?
Nah, good luck. Let's win some money.
That's it. Couldn't say it better myself, guys. Take care.